I'm now having to go forth and work with 13 states. That was an education. That took basically about 4 years to collect the money. And some of the states were fantastic, and others not quite so easy and not quite so pleasant. But my favorite one to work with was Utah. They made it possible in the first place that there was an implementation of the Highway Beautification Act. No other state put forth more effort. Henry Helland was in Washington, D.C. 3 times testifying and for the implementation of the act. The state had entered into a contract with me, what they'd pay for each individual sign. And Jack Francis was the one who appraised each one of these signs. So when they go to deal with me, they deal with me as a sign company and not sign by sign. A sign company. They get, here's what it costs us. They added up it all in one check and one deal. We take the signs down. They pay me when I get the signs down. Bango. Just like that. Wonderful. Sign by sign, I could stretch that thing out for years. I just really feel how blessed I was to have been here in Utah, or there was just kind of a higher degree of integrity with the people I worked with all the way through. Governor Rampton was fantastic. Vern Romney, the Attorney General, couldn't ask for anyone more sound and solid and smart as he was for the implementation of the law. He was just terrific. And so all these events that took place, it's like miracles, just little miracles, one after another. And it was just, the whole thing was just thrilling. Now, as I started to move into other states, some were very, very good. Very, very good also. One state that I had a lot of signs in was Nevada. And Nevada was a very important state. And extremely. Highway 80 going across the top of Nevada on its way to San Francisco. Tremendous. A lot of signs. They took the attitude that we can't believe how you did this. How did you ever get this bill through Congress and get it funded and get it implemented? How were you able to do that? We don't see anything like it. They didn't complain that they had to take the signs down, that they had to pay basically 90% of the cost, and the government would then pay, no, I got that wrong. They had to pay 10%, and the federal government pays 90%, excuse me. And they didn't complain about any of that. It was just pleasant. I remember being in Carson City and sitting there, not knowing what to expect. They walked out. They said, Mr. Snarr, here are the signs that we have for you in this state. And they had a picture of every one of those signs. Now, what I had done, I had a guy work for me named Harvey Lloyd. Harvey Lloyd was as wonderful as they come. He was born in Idaho, just out of Soda Springs. Eventually moved to Logan. And then I hired him. Harvey was an old shoe who was as smart as they come. But he came across as just being just kind of maybe not quite as swift as you might think. But he was swifter than anybody. So he was the one, and I said, now, Harvey, what you do, you got to go and travel these 13 states. You photograph each sign. So I get a photograph now. I do have photographs when they were first built. I want a photograph now. I want you to write down exactly the condition of that sign. I want the exact size to make sure it correlates with what we've got. I want you to figure all that out, Harvey. I want you to deal with the landowner, let them know there's a possibility, and it looks like it's going to come, but you don't know when, that the sign will be removed. And that we will then come in and take the sign down. Snarr Advertising will, and we will no longer pay any ground rent after that's done. Okay, you do that, Harvey. Now I want two pictures. So we got one, and that we can lay down one to the state, and they can have ours. Well, the state of Nevada, they'd already beat us to the punch. And they had everything. But we had everything. And they knew that we had everything, because I pulled out all of my signs, pictures too. And so they had their part of the table, and I had my part of the table. And then they just added it all up. This sign's this. Now, the formula that they used to determine value was determined by Jack Francis. He had gone through all my books over and over again, and he knew where he stood and the technique that he used to determine the value of the sign. And then there's three basic ways. I won't get into that now. I've done that before, earlier in discussing the sign program when it first got initiated. It was a wonderful thing to know that they knew, that Volpe knew, because of Jack Francis. And it wasn't a bunch of bureaucratic nonsense. Things could happen fast, and decisions could be made timely and just the way they should be done with government. Well, they gave me a check, and I accepted it. Just like that, on the spot, Nevada. There's a little town, Virginia City. Kind of has a nice, famous ring to it. It's an old-time town. And afterwards, I went from Carson City to over to Virginia City, not too far away. Carson City is the capital. They had a clock. That clock is right over there. It's a grandfather clock. I bought that clock in an antique store. They gave me a pretty good deal on it. I felt good. It wasn't all that expensive, but it was more than I would normally pay. But I decided to buy that clock, kind of to celebrate the situation. Well, California was a very interesting state. They said, we pay more money in this state to the program, the highway program, than any other state in the Union. We pay more than what we get back. So if it's 90% of this they're going to pay for, it doesn't mean anything to us. Because what we pay is more than we get back from the federal government to build roads, build bridges, and everything else. We pay the most. So they take what we pay and help to finance certain states that pay less than it takes to build the roads and the bridges and so on in their states. Well, Mr. Snarr, we're happy to pay you for your signs. You don't have a lot, but you've done quite a job. And they also were very congratulatory. But you let me know in pretty strong language We pay more than we get back from the federal government. And we're financing a lot of other states with their highway programs that they get from the federal government. Part of that is our money. Well, I got through California. Now, Wyoming was a very unique state. Little America has been there for ages in Wyoming. So Earl Holding came to me and said, we want to buy your signs. I said, well, if I sell them to you, then the government's not going to touch those signs. I can take care of that. And so he said, how much? So I figured it out, basically, what it would normally be. I already knew that. Well, I made sure that I was going to get paid right. But then I threw in a caveat. I said, in addition to you buying my signs, and you giving me money for it, here's a contract I want you to sign. My wife and I can stay in any hotel, motel, or any property that you own as long as we want to, free, the rest of our lives. In other words, Mr. Holding, if I wanted to, I could move in to your Little America, for example, in Salt Lake City. I could live there. He agreed to that. However, I got to buy the food and pay for the phone bills. So I've several times, Carol and I have gone down and spent a month in San Diego. He's got the nicest hotel in all of San Diego. And they treat me like $1 million. I'll never forget when I laid this contract down. Went to that hotel in San Diego and laid that thing down, and they ran this piece of paper over to the manager, showed it to him, picks the phone up, phone Salt Lake, and gets Earl Holding's son, Steve, on the phone. Steve says, give him anything he wants. So he put Carol and I in the bridal suite, the $1,000 a night. It was fantastic. Absolutely gorgeous room. Well, it was more than one room, actually. Well, years later, I was on the board of directors of the Holiday Bank and Trust, a small community bank here in Salt Lake City. And they wanted, let's go someplace where we can kind of have the key executives and members of the board can go and we can discuss how we can improve the bank and increase profits and so on. Where should we go? Well, someone suggested Hawaii. I said, why don't you go down to San Diego? You're not going to spend your time just in an airplane all the way clear over there and then all the way back. We get to business quicker. Well, I prevailed. So I called them and told them we're coming down. When I got there, they gave me the presidential suite. That was $2,700 a day at that time. And this thing was really something. 2 bedrooms and a beautiful room in between, a beautiful room. They had everything in that presidential suite. Complete kitchen with everything. A washer, dryer, they had everything. It was amazing. And it took up 1/2 of the entire floor, the presidential suite. The top one. Now, on the other half is for Earl and his wife, Carol. They had that room. So there are 2 rooms on top of the hotel. Presidential suite and then the Holding suite. Gosh, I was there for week. It really impressed the others on the board. I can tell you that right now.